we are more than halfway through the year, and those who know me well know that I love to design my life. I spend a lot of time reviewing my own life because I'm a big believer in designing it in the way that I choose. And that requires a lot of reflection and re-navigating and tweaking and learning. It's not a case of just putting a vision board together and then waiting for everything to happen. It's about constantly bringing myself back to the vision, bringing myself back to what's happened, what went well, what didn't go well, where are we going next. So I'm constantly reviewing my decisions, the way I want to feel, and being intentional about creating a life on my own terms. Now, that isn't to mean that I can just write down what I want and then tomorrow I start making it happen. Absolutely not. And in fact, a lot of the time, what's on my vision is a massive work in progress, because what's on my vision, which is much bigger, brighter, more challenging than I'm living right now, means that there are obstacles to overcome, that there is a pathway of usually of resistance. There's things, reasons why I'm not living that life now, and the same for all of us. If there's a life which we are dreaming of in comparison to what we have right now, there's a gap. And if we're not living that life right now, there's usually some reasons as to why. Because I'm a big believer in you can live in any way that you choose. Over time, it's not as easy to just like change things overnight, but over time we can take steps to live intentionally and make change. So that's what I wanted to talk about briefly today. If you're inside our membership, we will be doing a big review this week, a big mid-year review together, and we'll be going through this in more detail. But I wanted to share this on the podcast because if you're like me this year, I haven't even sat down to think about it being mid-year yet. And if we're not careful, life can just swallow us up, and we don't take that minute to just pause and reflect on what has just been and where we actually want to go. And for some people, it's not an issue. Maybe you don't want to reflect. Maybe you're just letting the wind take you wherever you want to be, and that's okay. This is more if you want to live with intention and you want to kind of design life in your own way. If you have dreams, if you have places where you want to be, hobbies you want to explore, different types of art you want to make, there's like a stirring inside of you for more or for different to what you have now. And this is where this comes in. So I'm going to talk really, really briefly about the steps that I take when I hit the mid-year point. And so I haven't taken all of these steps yet. I'm just kind of exploring them, and I'm doing them in not the wrong order, because there isn't a right or wrong order. It's like back to front in terms of how I'd usually do it. I'd usually start with a review, and I would review the last 6 months. And I tend to put that task off because I'm always thinking forwards, and I've got a big massive whiteboard behind me where I'm thinking about the next 6 months, and I'm always, that bit is easy for me, thinking about what I want to do, where I want to go. I'm not stuck for ideas there. But the one part of the process which I like to make time for, that doesn't come as easy to me, and then if I didn't do this with you all, there's no way I would do it, is the reflection. It's taking time to stop. And I'll carve out some time in my diary, maybe like a couple of hours, 3 hours, where I will sit and contemplate the last 6 months. I will look at what went well in my life, what didn't go so well in my life, what did I enjoy in the last 6 months, what did I not enjoy in the last 6 months. Is there anything that I wish I'd have done in the last 6 months or done differently? And they're the kind of questions that I'm asking myself. And these are really insightful questions. I like to look back and create a timeline: January, February, March, naming the months on a piece of paper. And I like to drill into the main milestones, main memories from those months, so that I can see in totality on a piece of paper the journey that I've taken since the beginning of the year. And I like to just sit with that. And also part of this process is gratitude. It's pulling out even the most simple parts of the last 6 months and expressing gratitude to the small things, the big things, people, opportunities that came my way, um, people that have, reached out or made an effort or done something kind. I take a minute to process that. And this is what is so wonderful about this mid-year review, is taking a moment to stop and pause and process what's happening, because I can definitely be foot to the floor, just keep moving, and this is about stopping. So that's where I like to start. Usually, like I say, I've done it back to front this time because I'm kind of like, what's next? And this is why I wanted to record this podcast, because part of this for me is about let's take a breath for a moment and stop. And so I'll review the last 6 months, create my timeline, ask those questions, and then from there, I then start to pull what I enjoyed, what I didn't enjoy, the lessons from the last 6 months forwards into the next 6 months. So rather than just rushing and not actually taking a minute to learn from what's actually happened, it's about that. What did I like? Well, let's create more of that in the remaining half of the year. And what didn't I like? Let's not have any more of that. Why did that happen? And it's kind of those questions. So I'm being more intentional about my life. So that's the first part of the process. And then from there, I tend to look back at my year goals that I set in January. I created a word for myself, which was joy. And for me, I wanted more joy in my life. And so I will look back and think, where was the joy in the first 6 months? What brought joy? And so I'll be looking at that word as well. And is that word still important to me for the next 6 months? In fact, it is. I definitely want to continue that word joy. Everything that I want to create now moving forwards is to bring joy to myself and others. And so that to me is important. And so I will be looking at that, what my goals were. Am I on track? Are those goals still important? So in January, when we get caught up with the new year and all the new beginnings and all the online craziness of have your best year ever, I want to check back in with the goals, because we can get scooped up sometimes with actually creating goals that actually weren't important. So I'll be revisiting the goals that I made in January, and I'll be checking in. Are they still important? Is that still my focus for the rest of this year? And then, understandably, since January and setting my goals, I've experienced new things. I've even run my own events, the summit, the Teacher Art Summit. That's given me new ideas of things that I would like to do. So the next part for me, once I've reviewed, is then I download. And so I create my maps, and I create my maps on different topics. So they tend to be money, art, personal life, work, I tend to just try and keep it to 3. Sometimes I put my personal life and money on the same one. And so then I start to mind map um, the things that I'm curious about in relation to each of those, the goals that I have in relation to those, the aspirations. And I'm looking at the way I want to feel. I look at be, do, have. What do I need to be, do, have in relation to those goals? I start looking back at my vision board. Is that still in alignment with where I'm going? And so I start to mind map out of me the areas I want to play and explore. And I've also got a massive whiteboard where I've put this into sections, and I map out on a big massive whiteboard so I can see everything in one go. The things that I want to learn, the things I want to do in United Art Space, the things I want to do in my membership, the way I want to create different events. And so I start to look at these pockets of my life and start to pull out of myself the ideas and the directions. And from there, then I have my ideas. And so I then look at the calendar and I actually print the calendar out for the next 6 months. And I start to carve in the projects that I want to work on in the next 6 months, what's most important. And I actually start to drill into each of them to understand what they are, and to question what the next steps would be. And so for some things I know the next steps, for other things I don't know the next steps. And it's about learning. So what, again, when I ask myself, what do I need to be, do, have, if there's something on the board and I want to do it but I don't know how, it's about learning those next steps. And so this is how I'm able to juggle lots of different things. And I also go through a process, because the board is very full and I've got a lot of ideas. This also helps me discern and gain clarity on what the main areas of focus should be, because I don't want to fill the next 6 months with tons of stuff where I get stressed, I feel overwhelmed, and I've put too much on my plate. I want the opposite. I want focus and clarity so I can actually do a really great job. So part of this process is what I call delve and shelve. I then download everything and I look at my calendar in the next 6 months, and I'm intentional about choosing 1 to 3 main things that I'm going to focus on and make time for those things in my calendar, and I carve them in. And aside from that too, I also look at then creating habits and creating these are the things like hiking. I hike every Friday and I've been doing that and I want to continue that. So I make sure I put that into my calendar. I was going roller skating every Saturday. I slipped. I've not slipped over. I slipped in terms of I've not been doing it. And I want to get back to that. It's just one of those things, when you review, I was going roller skating and I was loving it, but then life took over and I stopped. It's like, how did that happen? How did I stop? Just things took over. So I want to get that back in. I want to go roller skating. So I'll find a Saturday soon where I go roller skating again. And it's just bringing that joy back into my life, because again, we can have great intentions at the beginning of the year and then all of a sudden life does take over, and life can also get a bit serious and mundane and we can lose sight of the things. So this is about reinvigorating those parts that we maybe did or want to do, and we think, yeah, how come we're not doing that? When you start to actually be real with yourself and you make these mind maps and you pull out the things that bring you joy, the things that you really feel curious about, and you realize you're not making time for it. And it's like, why? And if it's important, then how can I make the time for it? Even if right now it's just a sliver and a tiny little bit of time towards something that you really, really, really want to do. This is how you make change happen. So there we go, a mid-year review. I encourage you to make some time to go off and do that. And if you're inside our membership, please do look out for our mid-year review that we're doing together. You can watch it live or on a replay, and we'll be going through this process together with worksheets. So I'm excited to explore that with you. And if you want to join us, by the way, inside the membership, we'll put a link below where you can learn more. We've got some amazing changes coming soon. In fact, I'm literally recording this and then I'm on my way to meet Lottie in our team as we reimagine our membership. It's really exciting. So I'm excited to share more on that very soon. For now, I just want to wish you a great week. Have a great one. Let me know when you're going to carve out some time to do your mid-year review, and let me know what comes up for you as well. And I'd love to know, we'll put some social media posts out this week on what has been great for you in the first 6 months of the year and what maybe hasn't been, and where you want to put your focus. I'd love to hear from you. So have a wonderful week, and I'll catch up with you soon. Bye.